Hello again, folks. Welcome to Air Job Boss 2022 Airline Job Hiring Year in Review. My review is basically of U.S. airlines because that's really where my expertise lies. But I think a lot of people, whether they're in the U.S. job market or foreign job markets, can take a little bit of reflection on this and actually adapt this to a global perspective. And identifying your local airline needs and their trends is very similar to the United States. The United States has such a large industry, airline industry, that the needs or the lack thereof are pretty much magnified from other regions of the world, but nevertheless very reflective as well moving forward. Okay. Let's go over some hiring statistics of the U.S. major airlines in 2022. Now, this information is taken from FAPA.aero, FAPA.aero, and they are a U.S. company, one of probably the best companies associated with airline pilots, aviation hiring, this nature, and they have a world of resources. They do not sponsor my channel whatsoever, but I do use them often to gain better insight of the hiring in the United States. And this is what they found the major airlines hired in 2022. Alaska Airlines hired 608 people in 2022, with Allegiant hiring 230. American Airlines hired 1,941, according to FAPA.aero. Atlas Air Cargo hired 910. Delta Airlines in the United States hired 2,392. FedEx hired 599. Frontier hired 562 pilots in 2022. JetBlue hired 826. Southwest Airlines hired 1,140 pilots. Spirit Airlines hired nearly as many, with 995. United Airlines is said to hire the most pilots in 2022 with 2,500. And UPS following along with hiring of 425 in the year 2022. This makes the FAPA.aero major airline total at 13,128. Now, this is just the major airlines in the United States. The regional airlines are also hiring at a very large pace, although their ability to hire is maybe a little hampered because of the not too many applicants are there to be hired. Okay. Now let's look at 2023 going forward on the major airlines. It is said that the major airlines will continue hiring in 2023 at the same pace as 2022. I don't believe there are 13,000 qualified pilots in the United States to fill those jobs. So, how is the U.S. airline industry going to solve this problem? I have identified basically 4 areas which the U.S. airlines, major airlines, can solve their quote-unquote pilot shortage problem. Number 1, they can lower the requirements for entry. At present, in order to be hired by a FAR 121 carrier, a pilot needs an ATP certification. And those certifications vary in age and experience based on other criteria, primarily where you get your flight training from and what type of ATP certification you're going to achieve. So the FAA could lower these requirements, allowing younger, less experienced, or less educated aviators obtain an ATP certification and then be hired by a major airline. Number 2, the FAA could extend the retirement age. Currently, mandatory retirement age in the United States is on your 65th birthday. There is legislation that has already been drawn up. There has been studies made and people have chimed in on the prospects of increasing the mandatory pilot retirement age to either the 67th birthday or the 68th birthday. This is a way that the airlines could temporarily supply or reduce their need for new entrants into their airlines. Number 3, airlines could consolidate routing. For example, there might be routes that have high frequency flights, perhaps 8 flights a day between 2 different airports, running relatively small aircraft. Airlines could agree to reduce those flights to 4 flights instead of 8 and double the size of the aircraft, right? Consolidation of routing. This would see a reduction in regional airline capacity and an increase of capacity for major airlines that operate bigger aircraft. Major airlines are scope limited, that they cannot operate too many small aircraft under an affiliation, a code share, or actually directly owning a smaller airline company. So those are limitations. But large aircraft acquisitions for major airlines is not necessarily limited in any way. So it makes a lot more sense to carry more people less often, requiring less crew members overall in the entire country, or the aerosphere, if you will. The fourth answer to it is to hire foreign pilots. Look to other resources, other countries, other pilot groups, and entice them to come to the United States under worker visas, and for at least some amount of time or permanent hire, come to the United States. I think you're going to see in the next 5 years maybe a combination of all these things occur, because the increase in requirements for pilots and air travel is great, and it's simply outpacing pilot applicants or individuals entering pilot schools. Yeah. So let's take a look at 10-year demand. This is according to pilotjobcentral.com, also a great website to get a lot of information associated with trends. CAE made a 10-year pilot demand forecast overview and forecasts over the next 10 years worldwide, the entire aviation industry is going to need 255,000 pilots. That is 25,500 pilots per year over the next 10 years for various reasons. 60% of that 225,000 is going to be required for simply growth. Commercial aviation growth, especially passenger carrying, basically grows at a rate of about 4 to 5%, and cargo operator capacity actually grows at a greater amount per year. So in order to meet that growth over the next 10 years, about 60% of total pilot hiring will be just simply growth. The other 40% will go to attrition, retirement. Of course, as many people know, there is a lot of retirements occurring over the next 10 years, and obviously those existing positions need to be filled by new aviators. So the growth staff is estimated to be 150,000 over 10 years. This is 15,000 pilots a year. And retirement, 105,000 per year. Over 10 years, which is 10,500 a year. Now, it is said that the U.S. over this period of time will need 85,000 pilots. That's 8,500 pilots a year in order to replace existing retirements and growth. Europe requires 50,000 pilots over the next 10 years, with Asia Pacific region requiring 90,000 pilots over the next 10 years, and Africa, Mideast combined requiring 30,000 pilots over the next 10 years. It is noteworthy to be said that The United States major airline industry is not exactly experiencing a pilot shortage, if you will. They are able to attract, because of salaries and benefits and the current population of pilots, enough pilots to replace their retirements and move forward in growth. If you look at the leading hiring airline in the United States last year, which was United Airlines, in 2,500 pilots. They did not retire 2,500 pilots in 2022. So why are they hiring more pilots than they are retiring? They actually are preemptively hiring people and trying to get basically market share of new pilot entrants in their books, on their property, employed by them, to actually prevent those pilots from working at another company. So they are scrambling to hire actually more pilots than they actually need. And so at any moment, this could actually shut down very quickly if something catastrophic happens to the market and they don't need any more pilots. As a matter of fact, there is a saying in the airline business that airlines hire all the way up until they begin furloughing pilots. Then they start hiring pilots again. So there are things that can occur in the US markets and the global markets that can set this hiring back. So obviously, it's very important to strike while the iron's hot and get hired by an airline as soon as you can. Now, the regional airlines are actually fundamentally finding it difficult to hire pilots because there are no entry-level pilots. There's just not enough pilots graduating flight schools, separating from the military, or exiting aviation universities to fill that demand. So they are actually having a difficult time completing schedules, which lends to the fact that larger airlines will use a bigger aircraft to take over that routing that a regional airline cannot conduct. Here are some of the major reasons that airlines can stop hiring at any moment. One is economic recession. Now, all over the world, we are seeing economic recessions and also inflation. It has not, though, significantly affected airline travel. As a matter of fact, airline travel is doing very well. Their capacities levels are high, their ticket yields are very good. So we are really doing well. You're going to see airline earnings reported quarter after quarter to be very positive indeed. But economic recessions can affect this. Also, company bankruptcies. At this moment in time, there is no significant threat of company bankruptcies except at the regional level. At the regional level, because they're unable to complete flights, this might hamper their ability to earn proper revenues, and it could induce bankruptcies. But it does lead me to the third cause of pilot hiring coming to bay, and that is mergers. When companies are having trouble completing flights, not finding crew members, not generating revenue, they tend to want to merge together. Sometimes they have overlapping routing and they can now consolidate that routing, and they have an excess of pilots after that merger, and that slows hiring. Another aspect is fuel prices. Now, fuel prices have been elevated, but it has not affected air travel. So at present, the economy is strong enough to withstand these rises in energy and fuel prices. Another thing that can cause problems with pilot hiring is new airline entrants, putting pressure on existing airlines, low-cost carriers coming in, and reducing large airline growth. And so large airline hiring would then tend to slow. Low-cost carrier hiring would maybe increase a little bit, but it would definitely put some trauma into the economics of airlines, and that would have to be digested with basically a freeze maybe on hiring and growth until larger airlines can cope with or navigate the competition coming from new entrants or low-cost carriers. Another thing, national disasters. National disasters meaning war, During times of war, flights internationally are often restricted, so air travel is restricted. Also, people become a little less likely to uh, travel on tourism because of the threats just basically of traveling while your primary country of residence is at war. So that does cause problems. Acts of terrorism frighten people from flying and stop people from flying. Therefore, this can reduce the need for air travel and the reduction in pilot staffing and hiring subsequently. And also, as we all know, pandemic or global problems like pandemics, this can shut down the air system entirely because entry and exit from countries becomes restricted. So tourist destinations are no longer offering sites and all kinds of travel benefits or things to do and see. So people generally do not travel. Yeah. So in this, let's conclude with salaries and benefits. What does this mean on two ends of this? What does it mean to try to become an airline pilot right now? And what does it mean when you're going to be an airline pilot as far as salaries and benefits? Salaries and benefits often follow demand. This is just natural of capitalist or business cycles. So the areas where pilots are most in demand are going to see the greatest increase in salary and benefits. And that's why you see regional airlines in the United States paying tremendous amounts of money for regional airline pilots, almost more than a major airline pilot. Now, I don't know the sustainability of this model because it was said for years that pilot pay was a majority and employee pay in general is a majority of the expense to an airline. So increasing that number significantly, and I don't mean like 10, 15, 20%, I mean sometimes up to 100% increases in salaries and benefits to regional airline pilots, how this is sustainable. I just don't understand the mathematics of how long this will last. And indeed, I believe that regional airlines find this to be a very temporary and untenable situation. I believe that they will rescind these salaries, signing bonuses at any moment, or it will drive them to bankruptcy, which they would enter in bankruptcy court. And then you are already working for them as a pilot, and the bankruptcy court will allow them to reduce salaries to a sustainable level. And there you will be working for a regional airline who has promised you high salaries, and through the mechanism of bankruptcy, taken those back. Beware. Anyway, that's how I see the future. Now, major airlines are going to increase benefits incrementally so that they can attract new hires. It is very competitive. You have, of course, United Airlines hiring 2,500 applicants, followed by Delta, which hired 2,392, and then you have American at 1,941, Southwest at 1,140. The airlines that will provide you with the best lifestyle will prevail in the hiring war. So it's important that they have a number of things. You see the merger between Spirit and JetBlue. This makes their airline a lot more attractive to pilots. There are more bases to live in, greater network, higher critical mass of revenue, better security in long term when you have larger airlines. So those things, the things that make working for an airline good for people, will have to be magnified by the major airlines incrementally. And so each of them will improve in certain aspects of their operation to better attract the qualified candidates that are in existence, which are obviously limited in ability. Now, the regional airlines, in assistance to getting people on board, will actually do things like pay for training, help you get you loans to go through flight school, give you bonuses initially to be hired. This will help you write down your expenses that were incurred over flight school. So there's a myriad of things that they're going to be doing. Now, once they have solved this problem of hiring, all those things start being frozen. So, of course, being hired sooner than later is very important, okay? That's about it. That's basically the state of hiring. We're going to see in 2023 basically a continuation of 2022, barring any one of those tragedies that I listed. So you need to continuously update your applications, continue to network with other pilots. Contact me if you have any questions. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section. Also, if you have additional information that you feel other subscribers would like to know, put it in the comment section. At any time, any of you can contact me at info@airjobboss.com for questions on aviation in general or what I do to provide one-on-one interview preparation to people just like you. All right, this is Air Job Boss TV. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you on the next video.